So you want to terraform Mars, but not sure which game from the trilogy is right for you. Well, we're going to find out today in Terraforming Mars, the dice game, if it fits in your collection. It's dice in space.
In Terraforming Mars, the dice game, you will be a corporation tasked with terraforming Mars into a new home for humanity. And how you do that is with all these dice. Each colored die has sides with resources on them, 3 sides being a common resource, 2 sides uncommon, and 1 side with a rare resource. So at the start of the game, your corporation will give you dice and you'll roll them. And now on your turn as an action, you can spin the resources on the dice you have in front of you to play these cards, which are called projects. For instance, if I had these resources in front of me, I could play this project card. And these project cards do a variety of things. They can give you more dice during your production phase, adjust more parameters to make it more habitable to us humans, or just straight up points. Now on your turn, you're allowed to do a support action and a main action, which is shown on this player aid. Support actions let you gain additional die, modify the dice in front of you by discarding one of your own die, or gain 2 additional project cards by discarding a die. But now remember, the most important thing is to terraform Mars to make it our new home. You'll need the temperature to be just right, water for us all, and breathe some oxygen. And your main actions will help you do just that. You can spin red dice to move up the temperature track, blue dice to place an ocean tile on the board, and green dice to place a forest tile on the board, which raises the oxygen levels. And lastly, you can build cities with gray dice. All these options will give you points in the process. Once all 7 ocean tiles have been placed and the oxygen and temperature parameters have reached their max, the game ends and the corporation with the most points wins.
Okay, so that was a brief overview of Terraforming Mars, the dice game. And before I go any further, let me kind of get the cat out of the bag, if you will. I really enjoy this game, and I think it fits nicely within the trilogy. The gameplay is much faster, turns feel snappier, and I still get the feeling that I get when I'm playing an engine building game, which are the other Terraforming Mars games in the series. Oh, I also wanted to mention as well, just like the other games right here, they have the awards and the milestones. So on the top left right here, players are going to compete to have the most of these symbols on the cost of their played project cards by the end of the game. So for instance, you had the most Celsius and lightning symbols in all of your played cards, you would get 5 points, and second place would get 3 points. In addition, we have the milestones, and the first player to reach a milestone goal receives the tile at once for free. Now, each milestone at the end of the game is worth 4 victory points. And if we take a look, so for instance, if you played 3 blue cards as a scientist, you would get to take this milestone and get 4 points. And so one of the other things that I didn't mention in my brief overview was the production turn. Now, I kind of showed it to you when I was talking about the start of the game where you'd roll all your dice based on what your corporation gave you. But essentially, when you run out of things to do or you're trying to save up for a big turn, you would take production. And what production does is you look right here next to my corporation. You see all the dice within these brown boxes. When I take a production turn, I get all these dice. So I would get 2 green, 2 blue, and a gray. I would then roll my die. And then those are the resources that I'm going to start with for the next rounds. Now, in addition on your production turn, depending on how many project cards you have, you'll draw up to 5. So for instance, let me take this away. Let's say I had 4 cards. I would get to draw an additional project card and get to play what I want from those in the future turns. Now, in terms of learning curve, this game is very easy to learn, in my opinion, especially if you've played the other games in the series. You're still trying to do the main thing, terraform Mars, which is what? You're trying to go up this temperature track. You're trying to raise the oxygen levels on Mars to make it more habitable. And in addition, you're wanting to plant ocean tiles, forests, and cities on the surface of Mars to not only get victory points, but hey, let's live there. And what I really like is the dice mitigation in this game. These support actions are very important. So if I really want to turn this lightning symbol into an oxygen, all I have to do is turn it over to oxygen and then just discard one of my die. Now, it might feel bad that you're doing that, getting rid of a die, but trust me, you'll start to learn that you really want to play with these project cards because they are very, very powerful. Now, speaking of that, the other thing that I really appreciate about this game is the symbology. Now, in previous editions of Terraforming Mars, it could be a little bit difficult to understand what was going on, and the graphic design was a little tough. But here, it's very simple. You have 3 resources of red that you have to pay up here, and at the bottom is the benefit you get in addition to a victory point. So it's really not complicated when you're explaining things. Another thing that I really like that is different from the other games is on the victory point track here, if you see the 5 and 12 marker, once you reach those, you're able to grab these bonus cards, flip them over and have a look and choose one for a benefit. So as an example, this one here, another asteroid, I would immediately get to raise up the temperature track and get the benefit of that, which is 2 points. And then the next player, once they get to the 5-point marker or the 12-point marker, would get to choose from the remaining. Now, the amount of bonus cards is based upon the number of players, so I could just kind of set up a fake 2-player game here. But I thought that was really cool. And what's great is there's a ton in the box. So each game you play, there's going to be a ton more bonus cards that could potentially really swing the game. And maybe the biggest benefit of why I really enjoyed this game so much was the gameplay length. So I've played about 5 2-player games so far, and they all lasted between 45 minutes and an hour. And I love that because I still get the feel of an engine builder, of terraforming Mars, but in a shorter amount of time. Now, that's one critique I have to give to Terraforming Mars, the original game, is that it did drag on. And I've had plenty of games where it's lasted 3 to 4 hours. And unfortunately, after about an hour and a half, I'm not interested in continuing that game. And also, the engine building, the engine's kind of running itself at that point. So I really like that I got the feel of that big box game in a smaller package, but in a shorter amount of time. That's what was more important to me. I've also played at 3 and 4, and while it does run longer the more players you have, I'm guessing maybe 15 to 30 minutes per additional player, it didn't really feel bad because, again, the turns are very snappy. You're either going to play a card on your turn, or you're going to mitigate some dice on your turn, or you're going to spend these resources to put out an ocean tile. You pretty much kind of plan what you're going to do because you do have to mitigate those dice to play all those project cards. Now, in terms of player interaction, there's not a ton. They have the project cards, which let me see if I can find an example. Ooh, flash cut, sorry. So here's a perfect example. Right here, you see the red border around this yellow question mark resource. What that means when it has a red border is you choose another player to discard a yellow die. Now, there's a couple other circumstances where you'll see that red border, and that what that means is it affects another player of your choosing. Aside from that, just like the other games, there's not a ton of player interaction, but I just wanted to show you that there was a couple different new things included with that. And just like every Terraforming Mars game, there is a ton of cards in the box. So I would estimate it's going to take a lot of playthrough to get through all of them. I really think there's a ton of variability in the game, a ton of replayability. Like I mentioned, there's bonus cards. The stack of project cards are this big. I mean, even when I was filming, I'm like, that doesn't even look right. But yeah, they do it. So I think you're going to get a lot and a bang for your buck. So yes, there is some luck in this game, but I don't want that to deter you. There's a couple reasons why. One, everyone is having to deal with the luck. And 2, I think they've put enough dice mitigation, again, in the game with these support actions that make it not feel as luck-based. I guess let me put it this way. I never felt that I lost because of luck. I lost because I had bad strategy, but the person who had the best strategy, I felt in every game I've played, won the game. So there's that. So where do I stand on Terraforming Mars, the dice game, and where would I put it within the collection? Like I said, I think I'm probably going to pull this out more than any of the other games within the series. One, because of the time length, and I still feel like it feels like Terraforming Mars. In terms of rating, I'd give this a 7.5. I would gladly even show this to new players. And I think experienced players in the board game genre will also get a lot out of it. And I don't know, just the genre of dice mitigation, rolling dice, changing them, that always interests me. So I'm always willing to play this one. And again, I never feel like there's a lot of downtime, and the snappy turns is a massive, massive benefit. Just to kind of give you a comparison of where I stand on with the whole series, I would give Terraforming Mars Ares Expedition, which was the second in the series, a 8 to 8.5. Ooh, I don't know. Let's go 8.5. But it's also heavier in strategy and takes a lot more time. And I would probably give the original, which I know might be controversial, 6.5, 7. And the only reason for that is time length. I feel like for what you get out of the game, there's much more games that I would rather play that does the same thing. So something like Furnace, Wingspan, Res Arcana, which I have right back there. I feel like in terms of a card engine builder, there's other games that I would go to for that due to time length. And it's very rare when I want to play a game for 3 or 4 hours anymore, unless it's some giant epic game. And for me personally, I don't consider Terraforming Mars an epic game. So that's it. What do you think? And have you played Terraforming Mars, the dice game? Where would you put it in the series? I know there's been a lot of kind of divisive opinions. Some people really love it. Some people really think the luck is just too much. But really curious to hear what you think. And thanks so much for watching. We'll see you next time. Peace.